This is the Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well podcast. I'm Lisa Salisbury, and this is episode 151 Menopause, Weight Gain, HRT, and Your Emotions with Dr. Meryl Kahan. Welcome to Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well, the podcast for busy women who want to lose weight without constantly counting, tracking, or stressing over every bite. I'm Lisa Salisbury, a certified health, weight loss, and life coach, and most importantly, a recovered chronic dieter. Here, you'll learn to listen to your body and uncover the reasons you're reaching for food when you're not truly hungry, freeing you to focus on a healthier, more fulfilling approach to eating. Welcome back to the Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well podcast. I'm so excited to have Dr. Meryl Kahan here today. She is a board-certified gynecologist, Menopause Society practitioner, and the founder of She MD. So welcome, Dr. Kahan. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more beyond that and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hi, thank you for having me today. So I am, as you mentioned, board certified gynecologist. I was practicing OBGYN for about a decade before I opened She MD in New York City. And She MD is a direct care gynecology practice where I help women with all of their gynecology needs. And I have a particular interest in hormonal management. So whether that's perimenopause or menopause or even weight management, because it's something that I had noted in my, decade of prior experience that a lot of women just weren't getting the help that they needed. And so prior to opening SheMD, I became a Menopause Society certified practitioner. I did training in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy as well as weight management. And because it all kind of falls into the whole anti-aging and wellness theme, I also did a lot of training and got a board certification in medical aesthetics. So I'm pretty much a one-stop shop for women in the New York City area. And I love what I do. And I also do telehealth where appropriate in New York and Florida.
Awesome. Well, I know I have listeners in New York, and Florida, so that's available for telehealth, but also just thanks for sharing your wealth of information. And I hope the sound is okay because my neighbors are doing yard work and you just can't control that. So they're going away. Okay.
Well,
So
I'm
let's,
in the heart of New York, so believe me, I
yeah.
hear lots of sounds at all times.
All right. Well, let's talk about, I get lots of requests to talk about menopause, perimenopause, just the struggles that we have, some to do with weight, but there's a lot of other symptoms. But let's start there. Why does weight loss feel so much harder in this midlife time? And I hear a lot like the things I used to do don't work. I mean, we've all heard this. And it's like this weight came out of nowhere. Um, what else do I commonly hear? Just like I started having symptoms, or like sometimes the weight gain is the first symptom that they notice that they're kind of in that perimenopause time. And a lot of them too, a lot of my clients and listeners have been chronic dieters. And so as much as they want to get away from that fad dieting, which I totally encourage, they also kind of have a knowledge of like what to do and what does work. And so they're like, why is this not working? It's so frustrating.
Definitely the things that worked for them in the past seem to overnight no longer work anymore. This is so common. Women will complain that, um, they haven't changed anything with their diet, or if anything, they're eating even healthier now and they're working out just as much, but they cannot get rid of this stubborn 5 to 10 pounds, usually in the abdominal area, no matter what they do. And nothing's
Mhm.
changed, and they've never had to deal with this before. And it's very frustrating. And with all the other symptoms going on with menopause, whether it's lack of sleep or hot flashes or more irritability or brain fog, you name it. But then having to deal with this too, which affects how they feel, but also now how they're physically seeing themselves. So it's a lot to handle. It's a big change. And so, one of my jobs is to really talk with them about it but also dig deep to try to figure out, is this something that is due to an underlying hormonal issue? We can talk about the hormonal changes that happen that contribute to this in particular, and then work to try to balance everything so that they're able to get back to how they were.
So what I have noticed is that getting on menopause hormonal replacement therapy, or there's a lot of words. Most people just call it HRT, hormone replacement therapy,
Mm.
bioidentical hormones. All of these are kind of really we're talking about the same bucket of medication, pharmaceuticals, if you will. It's my understanding that getting on those is not really a weight loss plan. That even when you get on hormone replacement therapy, it doesn't tend to shift weight. Would you agree with that?
So I definitely wouldn't put somebody on hormone replacement therapy if their one goal is weight loss. It's not a treatment for that. It's not approved for that. That's a really more in-depth conversation, what it is approved for. But what we do know is that when you are on hormone replacement therapy, it can change your body composition that was altered when you entered perimenopause or menopause. And it can also improve your muscle mass. We all lose muscle mass as we get older, and the muscle mass is so important for us to remain functional. It helps with our, basal metabolic rate. And so when we replace our depleted hormones, it can certainly help with the body composition. I would say that more so than weight loss per se. That being said, there is a study that shows that for women on semaglutide, also known as Govir Ozempic, that the women who are also on hormone replacement therapy do lose about 35% more weight
Oh, that's
than
significant.
if they're on
Wow.
semaglutide alone. And so, they do work together, but it is not in itself really a treatment. I mean, you might lose a few pounds on it alone, sure.
Mhm.
But it's not a quote unquote treatment for weight loss.
Yeah, I think that's just so important to realize that just because we're going to like replace those hormones doesn't, yeah, that is not, it's not really in the class of weight loss drugs by any stretch of the imagination. But that's fascinating that in conjunction with the semaglutide I mean 30 to 35% is a significant number.
It is. I mean, obviously, it depends. Like, if you're going on semaglutide to lose 10 pounds, I don't know that you really need to be on semaglutide, but,
Right.
that would be an extra 3 pounds. But if you do have a significant amount to lose, 30%, that is a lot. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good news. Okay, so what do you think some of the things symptom wise that legitimately make it harder to lose weight in midlife? Because there are some changes that happen. I mean, right off the top of my head, so I'm going to kind of steer you a little bit here because I know for one thing, it's sleep, right? We're not sleeping well. And progesterone has really helped me with that. But, it's not perfect. It's helped, but I'm still like, still have a lot of awakenings in the night and things like that. But when we're not sleeping well, it really can affect our weight loss because number one, we maybe don't have the energy. We're going to move less during the day. Number two, you're going to mess up your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. So, there's a lot of reasons why sleep contributes to our inability, like poor sleep contributes to our inability to lose weight. So, along those lines, what else changes? And feel free to add more on the sleep aspect as well. But what else is happening in this midlife time that makes it harder?
Oh, you took that one literally right out of my mouth. I
Oh,
mean, I
sorry.
think number one, no, number one is sleep. It is so important, exactly as you're saying. If you're not getting enough sleep, you just cannot function. You can't be functional. And so, if I want to tell someone to work out even half an hour a day when women are already busy, whatever they're doing, taking care of their home, taking care of their kids, going to work, whatever it is, so busy. So to find the time to work out, either let's say at the end of a busy day or wake up even earlier to work out, it's nearly impossible if you're not feeling rested where you're up throughout the night. So that one is so very important, absolutely. And then another thing that can affect the sleep too is the cortisol. That's a stress hormone. And a lot of times we don't really think about how the cortisol can impact our sex hormones and menopause. But it's really important to remember that these hormones are all connected and related. And cortisol is so important to help us manage acute stress. So that, back in the day, if we came across a saber-toothed tiger, our cortisol is going to spike and that will help us run away. I'm sure we've all heard that before. But the problem then becomes when we're chronically exposed to high levels of cortisol, then it's no longer suiting us. But because we need that cortisol to survive, what happens is that the sex hormones and progesterone and cortisol have the same precursor. So if we need the cortisol to survive, that precursor is going to get shunted towards making more and more cortisol to keep us alive, as opposed to going down the pathway of making the sex hormones. And so it's really important that we manage our stress levels to keep the cortisol in check so that we don't have to keep producing more and more of it. And cortisol can also be responsible for us waking up in the middle of the night or not sleeping very well. Absolutely. It can be responsible for the sugar cravings and mood swings and all that. It relates to insulin as well and the thyroid, because again, all of the hormones are connected. And so it's very important that everything is balanced. And unfortunately, with cortisol, there's no quick fix. I mean, I can't really give someone a prescription like I can for progesterone to fix it. So it
Mhm.
is something that really takes a lot of, I would say, buy-in, from the woman to work on things, whatever that may be for her, that she finds will help with stress reduction. So that could be going on a walk. That could be listening to relaxing music. That can be journaling, meditating, yoga, you name it. But that's another thing. I mean, there's also some supplements. There's differing opinions on supplements, but they exist and they're helpful for some people, but by no means are they going to be sufficient on their own. So cortisol as well.
I think it's so tricky for a lot of us in midlife because we have teenagers. I don't know if you do, but I do. And so our brains don't have the ability to distinguish the stress and the danger of a saber-toothed tiger and a mean girl. And some of us have mean girls living in our houses. Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, it's like this
Mhm.
strange case of, you've got uh, perimenopause symptoms, and then you also have a child or children. In my case, with two teenage daughters, one's out of the house now, but going through puberty, and it's kind of a mean turn of events where we're at this age where we have children, that are also struggling with their hormones, and I'm not throwing my girls under the bus. If you know me personally, my girls are delightful, but we all have our moments. But I have talked to other clients who, we have teenagers, and so it's hard to be like, reduce your stress. And you're like, what am I going to do? Kick them out? So I find that to be just kind of
Yeah.
a challenge with this age range.
It's not easy.
And often you're at the height of your career. Like there's just a lot of reasons that stress can be high. And so it's kind of one of those easier said than done things as far as reducing stress, but there
Absolutely.
are
And
some great tactics.
yeah, like you said, I mean, for most women, when body goes through all these changes, for women is the same time, if you have kids that they happen to be in that saber-tooth tiger or mean girl. So everything's like piling on all at once for sure. And I know it's definitely easier said than done. And that's why so many women do struggle with getting the stress portion under control. I will say though that when women are on hormone replacement, especially progesterone, they tend to report back that they find they're able to manage the stress better though.
Mm,
So they still have it. The goal is not to remove all stress from your life because
sure.
that will never happen. Um, but it's able to calm them down a bit more so that they're better able to manage it, maybe not be as short, not be as irritable. And so, that helps too. But another thing in terms of what changes can happen is the estrogen also. We all know
Hmm.
estrogen tends to drop later than the progesterone. And one thing estrogen does is it really helps with the insulin sensitivity. And
Mm,
so insulin sensitivity helps with your blood sugar. And so when you have less estrogen, then your body's not as sensitive to insulin. It doesn't react as well at keeping your blood sugar steady. And so then you have these sugar cravings also. You can have crashes, and it's just everything you can see, as we've been talking about, really has to kind of be working in perfect harmony. And if not, even if one thing's off, it just affects everything else. And that can really affect your energy, your diet, your glucose, your body habitus. And so, yeah, it's a lot.
yeah, it is. So I get a question a lot, which is like, what can I do? I don't want to be on hormone replacement therapy. What can I do from a lifestyle standpoint? And I'm always like, why? Like, first of all, why? Like, ask your doctor if you're
Mhm.
a candidate. I'm not telling you everybody is, but there's really nothing scary about hormone replacement. We're not going for extra high doses. We're trying to just replace what was lost. I think it's interesting because there aren't other hormones in the body that we're afraid to replace. If you had your thyroid cut out, you would take thyroid hormone. If your insulin doesn't work, you're diabetic, you take insulin. Like that's why if you have a type 1 diabetic child, like you would never be like, well, I don't know why that hormone's not working, but it's too scary to replace it. So it's interesting to me that there is some fear based around it. So I'm always like, why? Like, let's have a conversation with your doctor and see maybe if you could be a candidate. But if for some reason you're not a candidate, or even if you are, even if you're on it, they don't work in isolation. Like we still need to have some lifestyle components. And I talk I talk to my mom about this a lot. My listeners know I take care of all of her healthcare. I'm always at the doctor with her because she has dementia. She has a hard time following through with the lifestyle aspect of the things they ask her to do. And I'm like, these medications do not work in isolation. You can, like, if you're on a high blood pressure medication and you still eat fast food 3 times a day, like that medication cannot just like work magically. They don't work in isolation. And so we do have lifestyle factors that are going to affect even if you're on medication. So even if we're on hormone replacement therapy, what are the like main lifestyle changes and things that we need to do outside of just, popping that patch on, rubbing on our cream or gel or however you are taking it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've touched on some of them already, really, as it relates to stress management. But as far as certain dietary changes, we need to really be mindful of what we're eating, of course. I mean, we've heard so much lately about how terrible processed foods are, but protein is so, so, so very important. And I would recommend aiming for around 100 grams a day of protein. And that could be divided up among your meals. And that's really important to help us maintain our muscle mass, and also fiber is super important too. One of the things it does is it helps keep us full longer. So we don't feel like we have to be eating at all times. You want to maintain hydration. So be drinking water throughout the day. And I just tell patients like an easy way to know if you're drinking enough water is if your urine is light in color. So if it's yellow or bright yellow, then that's a very easy way to tell that you are likely not taking in enough. And so that's super important. Going on walks, even after a meal, doesn't have to be anything long, but like a 10-minute walk can help with your blood sugar also. and working out, especially resistance training. A lot of people are afraid of resistance training. I mean, when we hear that or weight training, we just kind of picture a bodybuilder or something like that. But that's not what it is necessarily. Don't worry, even if you're on testosterone replacement, you're not going to look like that. But resistance training can be anything as simple as even body weight exercises or resistance bands. So things that don't necessarily involve heavy weights. I mean, you can certainly progress, but that is so important to maintain our functionality too as we get older. I mean, you mentioned helping your mom. I also am, you know, dealing with my mom right now who is having issues with balance and falling. And so it's so important to do what we can at this stage to prevent that. And so you don't have to worry later on about how you're going to manage, right? Just something as simple as walking, right? And so it's so important to be looking ahead, and prevention is so much more helpful than treatment after the fact. I mean, I can prevent so many things, not everything, obviously, but you're way better off now than down the road when you miss years or decades of being able to set yourself up for success. And so just incorporating like those little things in, whether you do go on hormones or not, it's only going to benefit you.
That is like perfect. I couldn't have scripted your answer any better because this, I just want to recap for the listeners. Like Dr. Khan said, manage your stress, eat protein and fiber, drink water, strength train and walk. That's essentially the list that you gave us. And it is like the boring stuff. And this is what I
Yeah.
this is what is so like maddeningly frustrating is I get questions like, what can I do? And people want like the superfoods of menopause. And, they're on Instagram or social media and they see videos of like, do this one thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's not that sexy. It's just this same boring list. And if you've heard this list from me before, it's because it's evidence-based. These are the things
Tried and true. Yeah.
tried and true. Yes, it's the boring stuff. I had a message from a friend the other day. I have started to be friends with a group that is significantly younger than me. So she's asking me for advice for her mother-in-law who's like my age. And she's like, she's having a hard time in menopause. And I was like, she's not missing the superfood. Like that's what the question centered around. And I'm like, I just want to remind you guys, you're not missing some secret. Somebody on Instagram that tells you that you're missing that one secret, they're wrong. Unless this is their secret. Strength, walking, protein, fiber. So, real quick, you did give us a recommendation on protein, which is about 100 grams. That's what I generally do shoot for as well. What is your fiber recommendation?
Fiber, I would say about 25 to 30 for the day.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and if you find that you're unable to get that in your diet, you could do supplements as well. I think you really need to focus on your diet primarily. But one thing I like to tell people to do, I mean, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, but I find that using something like ChatGPT, honestly, can be helpful in terms of coming up with meal suggestions or recommendations, especially if you're looking at these goals in terms of how much you want to get
Hmm.
in. And you can therefore put in maybe the foods you like or what you have on hand or what you hate, and it can really come up with some very quick and easy recommendations for you. You can put your budget in, how many people you want to feed, whatever it is. And that just really gets rid of that barrier for saying like I say all the time, I just don't know what to make. I'm not creative. Well, now you don't have to be, so it's just getting easier to be able to do this. But of course, you still have to put in the work to actually make sure you're getting in the
Hmm.
proper food. But it really is doable. Yes, it may be boring, but
Yeah.
let's not forget about the the OGs of health, I would say.
Yeah. I've been focusing on protein for so many years that protein just feels easy. And it's not that I hit 100 grams every single day, but I know why. When I don't, I'm like, well, yeah, it's obvious. I'm not confused about protein, but fiber has been my new thing that I've been focusing on the last couple of years. And it is trickier because protein, you get a serving and you're counting in kind of like tens. This is 10 or 20 or 30 grams of protein for this serving. Whereas fiber, you're counting in ones and twos. And so you're like, oh, I'm going to eat this whole mango. And you're like, 5 grams, 5 grams? What? I just thought this was going to meet my entire daily recommendation for fiber. You think that the food has more fiber than it does. And so don't get discouraged. It's okay that you're counting. If you're just because I notice that people that are used to counting protein grams, when they start to count fiber grams, they're like, it's like nothing. Like, keep going. It's just a couple here and there. It all adds up. I found the easiest way for me to meet my fiber goals is to have a serving of beans. Last week I did like a cabbage and bean and all kinds of different vegetable salad, like sturdy kind of vegetables, put it in the refrigerator and I ate that for lunch every day. And I was like wozes on my fiber goal every day that week because I'm like, okay, yeah, that's so find something like that you like that you can incorporate as often as you can. What's your favorite way to get fiber?
I do like beans. I don't have them enough. I'm someone who I could do better on it. I've been taking fiber supplements myself for several years
Mm,
because I have celiac and that was recommended to me. So, but to your point, actually, recently, don't ask why I hadn't done this sooner, but I looked at the bottle to see like how much fiber am I taking and just with this, and I was like, why is it so low? It's like 5 grams, right? So, yes, you do need to take in more absolutely through the diet, which again, I'm not always so good at, but beans I do enjoy. They're filling and protein also, but meal prepping too, right? Like if you prepare things for the week, then you don't have to take it off your plate for the rest of the week. You don't have to wonder like every night, like, oh my goodness, it's another night. I have to go through this cooking again, or what am I going to take for lunch every day, which is a struggle for sure. Especially for me living in New York, I'm surrounded by like food everywhere I go.
hmm
Um, so if you take like a little bit of time on the weekend, that's another way just to like plan in advance to ensure that you're getting in what you need to.
Yeah. So I talk a lot about mindset for eating. We talk a lot about really thinking about why you're eating when you're not hungry. And sometimes it's really important rather than like specifically what you're eating. Obviously, today we're talking a little bit more about what you're eating, but when we're thinking about why we're eating when we're not hungry, and I work on that mindset shift, you were telling me that sometimes there are signs your body needs more than just the mindset shift that I teach. What are those signs that you notice that we need to get beyond the thought work?
Yeah, I think that if you're struggling with weight changes and the things that had been working for you are no longer working, again, it can be really frustrating. You might end up being hard on yourself. Like, obviously, I'm doing something wrong. This used to work for me. Why isn't it working anymore? But I think if you look at the whole picture, see what else is going on, whether that is changes in your mood. Maybe you're more irritable or more anxious. If you're just exhausted all the time, you're having the sugar cravings, you're not sleeping well, maybe your libido is off or your memory isn't as good. Any of those other symptoms that could be very suggestive of hormonal changes, I would really take those as like messages from your body that there's something else going on that goes beyond a mindset problem. And so that's why, especially if you're doing everything quote unquote right, I think it's really worth looking into your hormones and finding a provider that is open to helping you with that. Because again, they're all related. All the hormones are related. And hormones are responsible for how our entire body functions. And so if those are out of balance, like no amount of mindset shift or motivation or anything is going to help that, unfortunately. And so, again, I think that's when it would benefit you, even if you decide not to move forward in terms of any sort of hormone replacement. Some people need it, some people don't, some people want it, some people can't have it, whatever it may be, but definitely worth a deeper dive to see what is going on.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think I always am recommending my clients like check with your doctor on that because obviously that's not my scope. I do think it's so important to make sure everything's working medically. And you are in integrative women's health more than just traditional medicine. So if somebody's looking for somebody to help them with their hormones. Can you tell us like how to find or what to look for? Like what are we looking for maybe on their website that tells you that it's more of an integrative or personalized care that you do if they're not in New York, obviously.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so integrative really integrates kind of like the best of both worlds with the traditional medicine, which we all know as typically you go in, you're sick, you get treatment, medication, and then hopefully you're better. Combining that with more traditional like lifestyle changes using nutrition, supplements, so things that really complement each other and then looking at the whole body as one, as opposed to looking at your heart versus your reproductive system versus your brain health, and really seeing how like everything's connected. And so I think what's so important if you're looking for that kind of care is, of course, it depends where you're looking for it. There's so many ways to find care, but there are certain keywords I think are helpful, and those can be helpful whether you're looking on social media, if you're looking on Google, now even in the AI models, there is becoming more and more of a use for those, even in terms of searching for businesses or doctors or whatever it may be. So I think looking up like holistic, whether it's gynecology or doctor, provider, but holistic, wellness, integrative. You can look up functional medicine, though it is not really quite the same thing, though there's some overlap. um, Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I think just having that term bioidentical is important and will likely find you more of that integrative approach as well. Um, Full body, complementary. So those are some words I think could be helpful in your search.
Yeah, good. Because it's tricky, not all of us have insurance where we can go wherever we want for years, I think almost a decade. I was with Kaiser, if you're familiar with California healthcare, it's like a HMO,
Yes.
and so everything's in one building and which, there's some good and some bad, but fairly limited on doctor choice where I'm at, it depends. But our insurance just shifted and so now it's more of a PPO, I have more access and so it is delightful to just really get to search for a provider that you want, look at recommendations. Also, the Menopause Society practitioner, do they have lists that you can look at?
Yes. Yes, they do have a directory
Hmm.
that is for the public, of course, on the Menopause Society website. I think it's menopause.org. And yes, so anyone who is a certified member or provider will be on that directory. So you can search by location as well.
I think that's how I found my current provider because I really was interested in someone that could really work with my hormones because I ended up working with a naturopath as well as my Kaiser doctor. And then they were just saying like two completely opposite things. And it was very confusing. So it's been nice this year, this calendar year, to consolidate my care into one office that really does this integrative healthcare for women. So I've been appreciative of it. I know that's how you run your practice. And so, yeah, I think it's really super, super helpful. All right. Any last words of wisdom on those that are struggling with some of these symptoms with menopause that you would tell your patients?
Definitely. First and foremost is you know you best. So advocate for yourself. I've had so many patients in their 30s and older who, they come to me after their doctors just tell them either you're too young to be in perimenopause, or your hormones look fine, or just take this birth control to balance everything, whatever it is. If something isn't feeling right with you, then let's have it looked at. There's no shame in finding someone else who you feel like fits you better. It is a personal relationship. And so it is important that you feel comfortable wherever you're going. It's not a one size fits all approach. So really just advocate for yourself, educate yourself. And there are plenty of very well qualified doctors out there who are available to help you.
Great. Thank you so much. And I would love to put your links in the show notes if you are in New York or Florida. Is there anything else that you want to direct people to?
So my social media, and my website, I'm going to have a new website soon, but for now it is gmdny.com. And yeah, I'm always available. Follow me on social. You can DM me, or again, if you're in New York or Florida, reach out.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Dr. Kahan and I went on to chit chat about GLP-1s and the trend of microdosing. I ended up asking her if I could send that section out just to my email subscribers. She said yes, so it's a little less formal, but I think you'll get a lot out of it. The link to that download is in the show notes. If this episode hit home for you and you want support working through your perimenopause or menopause symptoms and weight gain, I'd love to talk with you. I have 2 free resources right now that I know will help. Download the What to Do When You Overeat course if you find yourself overeating too many times in a week to see lasting weight loss. Or you can grab my brand new GLP-1 Success Starter Kit. This is for anyone already on GLP-1s but don't have any support or structure around what to do, or if you're even remotely considering medication, grab this so you know what to expect. You can also schedule a free consult session to see if my premier 12-week one-on-one coaching program is right for you, or my brand new GLP-1 confidence method that I've recently developed to see if that is the perfect fit. So all the links are in the show notes for both of these free resources, as well as the link to schedule an appointment with me. Remember, it's not just about the food, it's about empowering yourself with the choices that truly serve you. Have a great week, and as always, thanks for listening and sharing the Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well podcast.